Hi, it's Jan. And not only are you going to hear a lot of embarrassing stories that have happened to me, because I'm always telling those, but you're going to hear a lot of coincidence stories that have happened to me. In my family, they refer to coincidences as Jans. People will call me up and say, Jan, you can't believe the Jan that I had. I've got to tell you about this, because I'm always telling these coincidence stories, and so now they've come to equate them with me. And so you're going to learn that about me. And so here's a story that I want to tell you. And I learn from these coincidences because I believe that everything happens for a reason. And when we start getting in tune and in touch with ourselves, we start recognizing the coincidences around us. And I always learn that those guide me to let me know that I'm on the right track. So here's one that's really incredible. First of all, years ago, with my former husband and I, we built several houses. And one of the houses that we ended up building ended up on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens magazine. And I had always had a vision of that. And in my blog, you can see a story about that vision and how it came to fruition as well. But in that particular house, all of a sudden, I had a dream of wanting to live in the mountains. And when I get a vision in my mind, then I can't stop it. I start moving forward on it immediately. So here I am in this house. We had lived in it about 9 years now, had gotten really attached to it. It was gorgeous, but I wanted to move on. And so I was on this path. You know, it's a bird, it's a plane, we can accomplish this, we can move on to 35 acres. I found the piece of property. And so I got the house ready and I put an ad in the paper for me to sell it by myself without a realtor. And so once I did this, all of a sudden I got a call within a couple of days. And I got this call from someone, it was a gentleman, and he started asking me about the house. He asked me, are there any step-ups coming into the house? And I said, no, there aren't, as a matter of fact. And he asked me what the floor was made of. And I said, well, it's Italian tile, you know, throughout the main floor of the house. And he asked me another couple questions, and he said he wanted to come over. And so when he came over to my house and I opened up the door, there he was in a wheelchair. This gentleman was a paraplegic, and when he came into the door that we had in the front door and all the doorways in the house were extra wide, and so that worked perfectly for him. And as he came on through the house, you could tell that he was loving it. It had a main floor master suite, looked out into this beautiful view, and everywhere he went, he commented in the house about how phenomenal the woodworking was. And he kept saying, oh my gosh, the woodwork is beautiful, this woodwork is beautiful. And he had a different mind's eye view to the woodwork as well, because he was looking at it in a sitting fashion versus a person who is standing, okay? And so as he was looking at this, and I saw him compliment on it constantly, he started to say to me, you know, I love this, I think I'm gonna go make an offer. And I was like, oh my gosh, here I am on the way to selling this house. I hope I'm ready. I hope I'm ready. And he made the comment to me, he said, who did the woodworking in here? And I said, you know, I don't remember who that was. I don't know who we had. It was some contractor of my former husband's, you know, who I was still married to at the time. And he said, oh, you know, and again, he complimented on it. And then he shared with me a story and said that he had been an interior trim carpenter in the past. And as a matter of fact, 9 years previously, he had fallen off of a building, and a second story of a building, and that's how he ended up in the wheelchair. And, you know, it struck me right then that 9 years ago was when we built that house. And we had built it perfectly for him. And now here he was, I was ready to sell, and he was ready to move. He was coming from California to Colorado, and here was this house, perfect for him. So as he left, he said he was going to go write up an offer. And I immediately picked up the phone and called my sister and said, oh my gosh, I think I might have sold my house. And she said, you're kidding, I didn't even know you had it for sale. And I said, yeah. And then meanwhile, my phone beeped in, and this is before caller ID or anything, and I thought maybe it was my former husband, and I wanted to be able to tell him, oh my gosh, I think we have an offer, you know, what have I done? Am I on the right track? But when I answered it, it wasn't him. The person who called me was this gentleman that said, you know, excuse me, but is this the Johnson residence? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, is this the Johnson residence that has a house that's peach colored, you know, out in the country? I said, yes, it is. And he said, well, I don't know if you remember me, but I did the interior trim on your house. I could not believe it. This was no more than 3 minutes after this gentleman left my house. And this guy who I hadn't seen and talked to in 9 years called me at that instant. He said, I've been out of town, I've moved back into town, I'm looking for work, and I'm wondering if your husband has any work for me. That immediately made me know I was on the right track. That coincidence that happened let me know that everything was lining up, and the next step I was supposed to take was right there in front of me. Pay attention to your coincidences. Observe them. Once you start doing that, you're going to start recognizing that you are continually guided to that what you're supposed to be doing. And that's a lesson I want to give you today. I hope you've enjoyed this story. There's a lot more coming. Thanks a lot and have a great day.